Lebo Mashile ba segodisa malekane. Mokibane wa monesa morale ngwana wa lepulane pula ha chabe. Ke matshilwane a shibe. A shila nakala moshidi ka mosho a shila tlhogo tsa batho rena ba maswika maramaka ekego mai a tshilwane. That is the poem that the Mashiles carry into the world. It is my privilege to share it with you in my father tongue, Sepulana. We call on memories buried deep inside skeletons of the first people to walk the skin of the earth, who nursed and nested in the cradle and spread civilizations across the planet like seeds. Tell us of air that flows through the heart of the land to all life and creation. Tell us of breath, the first song. Tell us of words like constellations mapping our contributions to humanity. Tell us of infinity, how the universe lives in us. Tell us which stars bear our names, so we no longer have to fear the night. Tell us of earth, of roots that course through the body of the land like veins through flesh. Tell us of the force that squeezed the red sand like dough to form mountains. Tell us how to build strong communities like gemstones forged under extreme pressure. We call on the desert to remember when she was the bottom of the sea. Help us understand how to be fluid like water, how to remain supple without losing our identities. We call on volcanoes to inject us with flames of imagination. Once we carried tongues burping fire. We melted metals with our minds. Tell us what we have forgotten. We are not afraid of bones. Tell us what we have lost. We are not afraid of remembering. Tell us what has been erased. We are not afraid of time. Tell us who we once were. We are not afraid of ourselves. Go slow into worlds where words unfold maps. Find whole. Make whole. Steer clear of traps. See gaps. Steps steeped in insight, free flight, fright. Break form, flow, fly, fall, crawl, creep quietly, feel fear. Steal hope, slide out, trip up, slip away, skip over, flip through, flop down, hop on, bend. Pretend the mind is a friend. Don't forget to dismember memory. Remember to write what's left. Know that it binds you like wind blowing from inside. Even air has songs like you, never stopping. They just keep moving. I grew up in two of the most racist societies on the planet, the United States and South Africa. So racist, they made racism an art form in both places. I don't believe in race as a construct, as an idea, as an ideology. I believe that I'm a soul, and I happen to have incarnated in the body of a black woman whose ancestors come from South Africa. I believe that we choose these bodies based on the lessons that we have to learn in life. And the DNA that we carry is a compass. And the DNA that we carry carries knowledge, carries trauma, carries talents, carries blessings. 500 years of institutionalized racism has made race matter, has made race real. So to get out of race, we've got to go through race. To get beyond black, We've got to go through black. We've got to go deep inside the heart of black. And to get deep inside the heart of black, we've got to get deep inside the heart of whiteness. White people are friends, are family, are lovers, are artists I appreciate, are revolutionaries, radicals who I admire. White people are Bjork and Shakespeare and Steve Winwood. Whiteness is a bludgeoning tool that always hurts. Whiteness and white supremacy always dehumanize. Njabulo Ndebele says that if there is a contribution that white South Africa owes to the world, it is to come out of the umbrella of international white supremacy and repudiate whiteness. As an African who grew up in the diaspora, I was very lucky to see blackness through a spectrum of people that included Cape Verdeans and people from Ghana and Liberia and Trinidad, Tobago, Jamaica, that included black Latin Americans from Brazil and Colombia, that included African Americans, the descendants of slaves, and who mixed with Native Americans. And I remember vividly, my mother was an activist, I remember vividly African American churches where we would go and she would speak, and the community would lay hands on our family and pray for a liberated South Africa. My blackness has always existed within a spectrum of black. And my family returned to South Africa 23 years ago now. Moving back to South Africa, immediately I was struck by what isolation from the global community had done to our definition of blackness. Beyond that, you know, the dysfunction of having a system like apartheid that placed such narrow parameters around people's humanity and who they could be, and deliberately did so that people would be divided, made it very difficult for South Africans to be able to see a spectrum of blackness that is a foundational understanding of my blackness, you know? And I find myself constantly pushing against that wall. I'm addicted to social media, Black Twitter, for all of its glory and all of its dysfunction. And every now and then, these weird debates come up that I have to literally, you know, harness myself to stay out of, because 140 characters is just not enough to take all this on. So I said, hey, Ted, today's today. So Black Twitter has exposed the fact that fundamentally the diaspora and the continent see each other through the lens of whiteness. Neither of us want to own our privileges. Neither of us want to own the other's struggle unless it opportunistically benefits us, right? You cannot take on the privilege of being a special black in another country where blacks are oppressed unless you are prepared to take on their struggle. And if you don't, then you deserve all the fire and the fury that will come to you. If I am expecting white people to give up whiteness in the face of being human, being African even, I have to give up the elitism that I enjoy as an African. We see each other through the lens of history books that are not written by us, through the lens of mainstream media that constantly denigrates us to each other. It was a privilege to sit as an African child in primary school with my mother tongue during Black History Month and say, actually, in America, we are more than, God bless Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and Michael Jackson, but we exist beyond that. In fact, there's 1 billion of us in a place called Africa, and we are diverse, and we have our own languages and our own history and our own struggles. So you're not gonna tell me what I am. Being able to do that is an extraordinary privilege. Being able to sit on social media in a country where you have access to Wi-Fi and infrastructure and education and a global Black voice that dominates discourse because you happen to be in a first world country is also a privilege that you must own. Which means that there's a lot of listening that we have to do to each other. And maybe that means, we must lock ourselves in a padded room and have that fight, and take it on until we are done. But the fact remains that there's 1 billion of us on the continent and many, many, many more millions worldwide. And the world has cottoned on to the fact, I guess we've always been hip, right? But Afrocentrism is a tidal wave that is going nowhere. And we will be two-legged consumers to everybody who wants to sell to us, walking around with the same issues, unless we choose to create some solidarity with each other. So, with that note, I'd like to give you some more poems, ladies and gentlemen. White Africans, it's not that you cannot be of this place. A place is a living energy. Borders and nationalities, race, and the bureaucracies that protect them are all lies. Africans exist throughout dimensions. The borders between planes are where we channel gods and art. Will you live here with us? Will you dream of your grandfathers? How they killed your grandmothers before they spread their love of death to brown people. Your mother's screams need cleansing, like your grandfathers needed cleansing when they returned from wars of conquest, kicked off their boots, and entered your grandmother's, planting wars and seeds inside her body. You were born with murder all around you. That's why you confuse it for love. Will you take on the fullness of African spirituality? Will you call the serenity of suburbia violence? I would give up blackness for you to be African. But would you ever give up being white? In the cosmos, we are crafted like the shades of my kin. Our souls are weighed on the stars, but they shift on the planet's whims. As transient as wind, as opaque as sin. Where does the dark of black begin? When it limits the hearts of Africans. I believe the soul is crafted by this physical terrain. And every string remembers us. They call us by our names. I believe that we are fashioned by the fragile balance between love and pain. When your thread breaks, do you piece it together? Or do you fight change and remain the same? The threads that bind us to our dreams, the threads that lead us to our goals, the threads with which we weave our dreams, the threads that tie us to our fears, the needles that pierce our hearts with sorrow, the threads that link us to our pasts, the threads we climb to reach our futures, the threads we break in violent acts, the threads that bind us. When your thread breaks, do you piece it together? Or do you fight change and remain the same? We've come to the edge. Don't stare at the precipice too long. After all the bets are hedged, the future's fabric is formed by the hearts of the strong. The ledge is scary. Our legs are weary. And the fall to the bottom is long. How do you rise when you've never flown before? How do you believe in wings that are half-formed? Quilted wings are made of discarded scraps. We sew the shards of forgotten memories into a mental map, one that disarms the limbs of envy every time it attacks, one that propels us into flying forward when the wind forces us back. We are heading towards the exploding star that heralds the end of days. We're shedding the traps of ill-fitting norms, experimenting with the lines formed when you break form. We have entered the time when work is love, and love is a product of play. These are the hours to reach for what is worth rising for. These are the hours when visions are made. These are the hours that every human being can create. These are the hours when the past is a shape-shifting canvas and today is ours to make. These are the hours when choice cannot be denied. Responsibility is a dare we take. These are the hours when the lines of lies are no longer concealed. The cloak of smoke is exposed to be fake. No one stands up for those who choose to take a stand. No one holds you or consoles you. No one grabs your hand. All you get is what was gotten by those who've gone before you, one single silken strand. The pearl of owning that you did dive into what had to be done. You listened to your heart's command. For the dreamweavers, you and I, we are the keepers of dreams. We mold them into light beams and weave them into life's seams. You and I, we are the keepers of dreams. We mold them into light beams and weave them into life's seams. You and I. No, life is not what it seems. We strip the fat from the lean and find the facts in between. The visions we redeem and the agony of choice. Yours is just a mind, and mine is just a voice. But when we love with a heat that would rise like a song in flight on the flesh of our backs. If it's love that we lack, then we walk with the pain that we seek, the love exchange that we spite. As we move through indecisions, rising in hope, fading in fright, we ride the crest of intuition on the journey of this life. And by the hands of the infinite, we hear the cries of the rest, weighed down by their intelligence, submitting to this test. But you and I push the boundaries of reason. You and I plot the mysteries of seasons. You and I paint this history to free men. Nothing can be stopped like you and I. We are the keepers of dreams. We mold them into light beams and weave them into life's seams. You and I.